having parking area, which is relatively, you'll see parking of spaces or cars that are roughly about 4 feet in height, as opposed to a 15-foot tall building there close up to the intersection.
Okay, so basically it's for access ways for traffic flow,
Correct.
make it more, I guess, safe.
That'd be correct.
Okay, any other questions here, guys? See if anybody has anything down there. Guys, got any questions down there?
Any questions? I'm good.
Okay, let's get some adjoining property owners.
We have two abutting property owners listed: Bishop Marshall, COKB Fast Foods LLC, 116 Shannon Drive, Morgantown, West Virginia.
5 foot all around.
Edelweiss Realty, Inc., 303 East 6th Avenue, Tarentum, PA.
So we want 5 foot on the east side.
5 foot on that.
Rostraver Road, I have that. 5 foot relief on the west side. Up
No,
here,
that's- no, no,
it's over here.
both sections.
It's 5 foot, 2 5 foot.
Yeah, on three sides of that property. On three sides of the property. Each area of encroachment. Exhibit 2.
The card you were showing us, this is marked as exhibit 2. So this one, this is 2. Take a look. That's the one you were showing. You
This
were,
is the board, yeah.
is that what you, the board, yes.
On exhibit 2.
What? Okay.
The existing property survey is exhibit 2.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Now we have to see if anybody else has something. to say
Looking
about
around
this.
as opposed to when I was doing my notes for the presentation today. So-
Okay, so it's exhibit 1.
Exhibit 1.
That's correct. Yeah, exhibit 1 would be the proposed
Exhibit
site
1.
plan. Exhibit 2 would be the existing survey. Apologize about that. Any confusion?
Does anyone else have anything to speak to as far as the community to bank request? Yes, sir. Yes, please.
State your name and address. and then
My name
sworn
is
in. Yep.
James Harshman, address 100 Corson Hill Road, Washington, Pennsylvania.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do. I'm here on behalf of our client, Edelweiss Realty. Again, my name is James Harshman with Harshman CE Group. They asked me to come tonight to learn about the plan because, of course, we received the notice of the variance being requested tonight, but in particular to express our concerns. So Edelweiss Realty owns the property immediately west and to the southwest of the proposed development, the bank. Currently, it has the oil change, the quick lube place on it. So it used to have the car wash, was torn down a little while ago. We have concerns about drainage from the bank as it sits right now. A lot of that paved area drains towards and onto my client's property. It's kind of a nuisance and a maintenance issue. So the point I want to bring to the board's attention is that the township makes sure that this development plan incorporates good drainage practices, stormwater management planning through the land development process, which I'm sure you will, but that leads to our next point, which is the applicant requesting reduction of the landscape buffers that will be required on the edges. And the concern I have on that is those buffers, as per the ordinance, would serve to protect my client's property for things such as runoff and drainage, et cetera, by keeping those parking spaces set back a little farther from the adjoining property line. So those two things I want to bring to your attention. Also, in listening to the testimony tonight, I have concerns that maybe their hardship is self-created, that they don't have an existing hardship, but rather their hardship's defined by what they propose to do, which is the building size and the parking spaces. So I would also like to just state for the record that we would object to their definition of a hardship on that basis and request the board consider keeping those landscape buffers in particular to protect our client's property from stormwater drainage. And that's all I have at this time.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Good, thank you.
Would you like to respond to that? Sir?
No, I just really thanks Mr. Harshman for those comments. Yeah, we still would need to come through site plan review. It's very understanding with the concerns for the runoff. We would definitely have that undertaken. Would be glad to meet with the property owner, discuss that further during the design process for any stormwater requirements that are on there. And we could also definitely talk about maybe increasing anything with landscaping in there to identify some specific plants that would, be a little more tolerant for any stormwater runoff or flow that would be able to do that, and also maintenance wise itself.
Now, the area that he's speaking of is on the west side of your property.
That'd be correct. The
where you
west
have
side.
The two encroachment zones.
Yes, and there is the very large, I believe, difference in the topography there too, existing currently.
So you're sitting up higher.
That's correct. There's a retaining wall on the property line that is probably 4-5 feet to more along that property line. And it has the proposed parking spaces right up against the line, currently not with paved right to the line. So we would be pulling back with landscaping, green space area in there. Definitely have with proposed anything with the new parking lot and having that pulled away from the drainage area to be able to pull away from that site as well too.
Because on your application, you did ask for a variance on a landscape buffer area.
That's
Okay,
correct.
On
in
the
that-
size, but you're still willing to put in the landscaping that would be appropriate for.
Yeah,
with the 5
Yes, we were,
feet,
we were still
pieces of-
proposed. Yep, the requirement is 10 feet of the requirement of the area for the landscape buffer. It would just be a reduction down to 5 feet, but we would be more than willing to increase landscaping in that area still at the 5-foot size though.
Does that answer any of your questions, sir?
It does. I couldn't see the exhibit. Would I be able to look at the plan?
Please come up and
Yeah,
take a look
sure.
at it now.
Well, certainly. Jamie, I could send it to you too. I know, but previous work relationship on other projects. This one is probably, I'd be glad to more than send this to you. It's not coming down this long. Currently, we have the curving coming along, and this is roughly about 5 feet from here to the existing property line here. So it was a 5 foot on for the working.
West side. Yeah.
So I believe that we could definitely talk with the client, looking to essentially redo this one kind of slowly. To just
A couple things I'd like to say while looking at the plan.
Okay. Can we have it quiet in here, please? It's a little hard to hear. And we have a recorder trying to catch all the words. Go ahead.
I'll say usually I'm on his side of the presentation and not on this side of the presentation. Our company is a civil engineering firm. I'm a civil engineer. So a lot of times I'm the one preparing these site plans. So I understand what you're up against and what you're asking for. As I look at this plan, I think there may be the opportunity by adjusting some of the radii of the outside of the parking lot to increase that landscape buffer beyond the 5 foot they're proposing and maybe get it closer to the 10, at least along the western property line. And also, I want to say I appreciate he's offered to send us this plan to take a look at and review and provide some feedback and some dialogue with our client. I think that would be great because this development plan has the potential to help a situation that's bad right now. So right now, the drainage from that parking lot comes down onto my client's property. When they do this development, they'll have the opportunity to improve stormwater management. I'd like to see that happen. If I could approach the board, I'll show you what I had in mind here. I don't mean to throw a wrench in the works. I just want to relay my client's concerns about this development. And you see what I put on here is a dashed line. There's a large paved area here where cars will navigate into the various bays. And I think that could be shifted back, still maintaining the required aisle widths as per the ordinance. Maybe this last one would still need to come out, but you can certainly bump this area back a little bit so that the requested variance may not need to be so severe to this. And as I mentioned, a lot of times I'm in his shoes asking for variances, and I understand how you can do a better development if you can get some relief in areas. But this being where our class property is located, the best buffer we can get along here will certainly help us out and may even improve the situation.
You brought, now this is 5 feet from here.
That's correct.
You brought it in, what, another 3 feet?
I believe it should work. We'd be more than amendable with that. The only concern I just have Jamie identifying with that is just maybe on these last lanes, anything for the stacking requirement. From the 18 machine, the 18 machine, you locate the stacking, just so we're not proposing anything that maybe bring us too close in. And we have, 1 or 2 cars there, then we have a pinch point there without traffic getting around. But I think maybe if we look at that, like I said, this is a proposed. We have not entered in with anything for civil engineering yet, but since coming here tonight to get the first hurdle here before we move forward. But yeah, I think we can probably work something out with maybe increasing the curbing there, but maybe anywhere between traditional 2 to 3 feet. Flexible, just not like what a concern with stacking requirements or anything.
Do you have any idea of what the difference is in the overall green space between the existing site and what the proposed site is?
I do not have
Increase, decrease?
I know it's, by looking overall, it is definitely a reduction in there. I do not have the numbers though on there, what exactly the impervious surface is now versus the post of what are being proposed.
How about your curb lines? Are they going to be concrete, like 4-inch curbs? Or are they
Yes.
going to be wedge curbs?
Yes, no, we usually have 4-inch concrete curbs throughout the elevation of site.
Can everybody hold it down a little so that the court reporter can pick everything up? Thank you.
To keep his application moving along. From my viewpoints, I agree that a compromise would be great. And for example, if 8 feet instead of 5 feet, you think that's something to work with, maybe with the condition that he's willing to cooperate with Edelweiss Realty regarding a look at the stormwater management. Or something along those lines. Like I said, I don't mean to throw a wrench in the works, just want to explain our concerns. And in particular, like, the landscape buffers, they do help with drainage, certainly drainage across on the zoning properties. So this being our area of concern, if we could see this improve slightly, I think it would satisfy.
You want him to submit a drawing to that effect to your company?
We would prefer that, absolutely.
I don't believe that would, with Mr. Harshman's asking for on behalf of his client, I don't think that is anything that is outrageous or anything asking for. We definitely share that on the development side. Like I said before, we're not entertaining civil engineering yet until we came through with further project on our request tonight.
3 feet. I don't think that's deal breaker.
No, I don't.
I think it would work out. So we'll make that work. Condition that this, instead of 5 foot relief, we'll make it 2 foot relief.
Johnny, speak up a little, please.
Okay. All right, we're asking if we can move this from a 5 foot relief to a 2 foot relief on the
5 to 7, you mean?
That's west side.
5 to 7 or 5 to 8? From 5 feet to 7 feet or?
5 foot, yeah.
5
5
to
foot,
8 to 2 feet.
get 2 foot relief.
You're right, okay.
Yeah, it would be reversed as a, it would show roughly anywhere to 7 to 8 foot of buffer area. So relief of
7 to 8 foot
seeking
usually
relief
do it
of
nice.
2 to 3 feet.
And you get together on your storm plan. Yeah. These will be 5,
That's correct.
and this one will be 2. Okay. 2 foot of relief, we're gonna have 8 foot. And you two guys can go on. Water management. I'm sure it won't be a problem.
It's the west. Yeah, the big one.
You set now?
You got it.
Okay. The chair will entertain a,
I make a motion for a 5-foot variance on each of the 3 different areas of exhibit 1, plus landscape buffer on west side with 2-foot release.
second,
Seconded.
roll call, please.
Steve Boyd,
Yes.
Mr. Callaway, yes. Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Fidel.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you,
Your
gentlemen.
request has been approved.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Mr. Hirschman, I'll contact you. Thanks. Thank you for your time.
Yes.
Aaron, it was nice seeing you again.
Okay, before we start the last case of the evening, we're going to take about a 5-minute break. Give everybody a chance to stretch. Hi, John. Which paper? If you go to the website, go to the Rostraver Township website, and there's a heading Boards and Commissions, and look at Rostraver, yeah, the zoning hearing board. You'll see all the names. Mark Shire. Mark, yeah. Are you representing a party? Okay. Yeah, well, yeah, here's I'll tell you, we have never, in my tenure here, we've never had a situation like this, but I can tell you what we're planning to do and what we're planning to announce at the beginning. We're going to ask first who here is interested in attempting to demonstrate parties, to be deemed a party. And whoever indicates, we're going to go one by. You may want to come up here, Blake. He just asked what the board's procedure is going to be regarding requesting party status. Okay, well, to answer your question, we're first gonna ask, whoever is here who is interested, they'll come up one by one, and they're going to. I know, no, I know, but I know that, but I think, we have some obligation to do that, because I don't want to cut anybody off. I mean, not that I want to do it, I mean, I realize the can of worms we're opening, but, we'll explain to them, if you're not a party, you're still gonna get to say your piece, you're just not gonna have the opportunity to cross-examine and so forth. So we're gonna ask them to indicate their name, their address, how far they live from the proposed site, and explain how you're affected by the application, because I think that's what the statute requires. And I can tell you, I've cautioned the board to be on the liberal side, because we don't want somebody filing an appeal saying I was wrongly shut out of being a party, but that's the procedure. So your client, you can indicate we're seeking it, and your client will answer those questions, and you can state with anybody whether you do or don't.
Yes, you do. How you been? Okay. I was wondering, is that you still shooting up there once in a while? I hear somebody still shooting. I remember you and your dad used to shoot. You can't what?
Well,
shoot in my backyard.
Yeah, I know, I understand, but number one, no, it's.
Yeah. Can't do that anymore. No, I belong to two gun clubs. I either go to Elizabeth or the East Allegheny.
Yeah, no, you said that. Well, but let's say your average guy comes up and you're going to say there might be a couple, but there's others that don't. Do you think
really like
that what they testify to is going to reflect whether they should or should not have party status, or they are affected by the application?
Time we might do that again.
I mean, you said you're going to have a ton of people, but I think it's what? And, well, right. How somebody from Township can establish their effect? Yeah, I think right. That's an easy question with somebody like that.
Good for you. Yeah, that's where you usually find.
Now, then you have, there's Rostraver people. I'm sorry, Elizabeth Township people that live close. So, clearly they have a right to establish. They can't be. I mean, Penn Township, sure, that's an easy one.
This one with the gas well, at least another month.
About what?
We're gonna quit at 10 o'clock. And we finish up. Well, we're trying to finish it next month. I'm not for it.
Right.
I'm not for this thing, but you can't stop.
Yes, yeah.
And these politicians got this tied up in here. It's a done deal.
No, I do, and I'm trying to manage it in a way, to avoid cutting somebody off and giving them grounds for an appeal and getting it remanded. That's what I'm.
Put restrictions.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said it that way. I mean, it's going to depend on what the person says. Yeah, I mean, the board, if there's multiple parties, the board is not going to sit here and listen to 5 people ask the same question. Yeah, sure. I mean, it's,
It's when they approve it. They meet the resources. You can't stop them. You can just make sure.
I thought you would.
This is okay. You look familiar, but I'm trying to figure out who you are. Bill, with a hat on, I can't tell. Oh, we're good. trying to do a thing. Man, I didn't reckon the way you got a beard and a hat. Oh, okay, you can do what you want. The circus is about ready to start. This ought to be fun. Bill, that's what I'm gonna find out.
Good, how are you?
Here's their application. Nowhere in here does it say where these legs are gonna go.
Okay. We'll hear what you have to say.
No, nobody did. Nobody did.
Well, you know, from what I think,
Yeah,
this
but
is
what I'm
not,
saying
this
is,
is not gonna be
they're
resolved
drilling down,
tonight.
and then
The case isn't
horizontal.
gonna be completed
I think 12
because we
different
told the
legs.
parties we're gonna go
If
till
I-
10
now, if we're
o'clock.
not going under our property,
Well, so what I'm saying is,
I don't want to.
you know, we're gonna be done at 10, but you probably won't even, you know, they're not even gonna finish their main case, so it's gonna,
Well, yeah,
Mark
it wakes
Shire.
me up.
Mark Shire.
And my trees. Yeah, well, they're not gonna pipe water here. I mean, they're gonna pipe water, not gonna try.
Yeah, okay, yeah, but we'll have to hear from you at that point.
Well, they'll be hauling some stuff out, but they're mostly gonna be piping water in.
You coming for this now?
Wow. Well, one thing we could do was force them to put up a 32-foot sound there. That's one thing. There's a couple other things. Yeah, we just can't stop it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we'll make it rough.
I think that goes.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. Yes.
6, okay, the application. Okay. What about, yeah, this case, you have this Worthington case, was your case. That's, I mean, it, you know, it sort of went off on a tangent, but it was helpful. Is that this, this opinion that's attached? Washington. Yeah, I read. Yeah, I have that case here. Oh, different. What was the nature of, what was the activity? Was it a well? A well. Yeah, because these, you know, there's this, I can't remember the name, this case that Pellegrini was on, and he said that depending on the pervasiveness of the type of use, it could be a lot more than a half mile and so forth. Or sure, right, or less, yeah. They're both trial court cases, the ones you have.
Ready? I got a call this afternoon. We were away and Van got one. Left a message. I had no idea what it was about. Now I do.
Yeah. And that's plenty, yeah. Everybody can. You know, what I was going to do was burn some discs and do that. It was. There was, because apparently there were a couple of inquiries by people and they wanted copies and they ended up just getting discs, which is great. Yeah.
Okay.
1, 3.
Yeah, we ready?
You guys ready down there?
Now we'll explain to you about
understand, yeah, because he's saying.
Do this and
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Last item on our agenda tonight is Olympus Energy LLC, 501 Technology Drive, Suite 1200, Cannonsburg, Pennsylvania, 15317, is requesting a special exception. The owner of the property is 508 Wall Street LLC, 157 Pacific Boulevard, Menneson, Pennsylvania, 15062. The applicant's proposed use is an oil and gas drill site, Hera well pad. The property, tax map 5605000084, is located at 107 Gallatin Road and is zoned A1. Okay, before we start, how many people got one of these lovely little yellow cards? Whoever sent these out sent you some misinformation. On here, they have highlighted Rostraver Township has granted the gas company a variance to the township noise ordinance to allow for increased noise. That is wrong. This board right here is the only entity in this township who can issue a variance. Commissioners don't. They didn't. So whoever wrote this crap, they're wrong. Okay, now that's just something to incite people when there's a well to be drilled. And we don't need anybody incited. Okay? We're going to listen to the presentation tonight from these gentlemen from the Olympus Energy Company. We will have comments from all concerned persons, and you will get your turn to talk if you have something to say. We're going to explain to you how we're going to determine who's going to talk and when you need to talk. Mr. Shire will explain to you about what your requirements are to speak.
Okay, it's important to understand that there are two categories of the people who are here. Some people may request to become parties in the case. And in order to do that, it'll be necessary to establish that you're affected by the application, and not just generally, as anybody might be, that I'm concerned about pollution or the ozone layer, but that you particularly are affected by the application. You'll also be asked your name, your address, and how close in proximity you live to the proposed well site. If somebody is granted the right by the board to be a party in the case, then they will be able to cross-examine the applicant's witnesses and obviously to offer evidence at a later point on their own. So we're going to start at that point by asking any individuals who are seeking to be witnesses, and if certain people do, then the applicant will have the opportunity to ask questions of that individual and potentially to object to that individual being given party status. The other is simply to be a witness and to present to the board later what your point of view and your feelings are. And anybody who wants to do that will have the opportunity to do that, and that'll be at a later point. So those are the two parts of it, and so the board will start by indicating if there are people here who want to ask the board that they be given party status in the case. Will those people raise their hands? Okay, we'll ask those people then to come up one at a time and to give the oath, and then we'll ask you those few questions, and then the board may have questions, and Mr. Lucas, who is the attorney for the applicant, may have other questions to ask as well. So if you want to come up one at a time to do that.
Hi,
State your
my
name,
name,
spell your last name and give your address.
Julie Lorenzo, Lorenzo, 270 Salem Church Road. And the well is going right above my house. And I am concerned about my spring house water.
When you say right above your house, can you describe how far it is?
I have no idea, but I am located right here. It's right here, so I don't know the distance from my house. Else I did very close.
Well, but that's what we're asking you is how far you are. So,
Measured how far it is.
all right. Well, are you able to make some determination? by
No, I am
looking at the
not.
map?
No,
Okay.
no, because there's a grade of a hill behind my house that ties into, my property ties into their property. To the well site property.
What do you mean it ties into?
Well, my property adjacent to their property where the well's going, the property owner.
You mean you have a common border line?
Yeah.
Of your property.
To
and the
their
well
property, yeah. So
Okay.
I have spring house water and I really don't want to lose my water.
What causes you to think you'll lose your water?
Well, I don't know. I'd like to have a guarantee that I won't lose my spring house water. I won't get cracking of my foundation. These are my concerns, and chemicals.
Okay. The board have any questions?
Sounds right to me. I have no problem. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
You have standing as far as I'm concerned.
my driveway. And then, of course, the lights, the noise, it's gonna be right next to my house. Okay, so I've already talked to gas company about it. They said they'd deal with me at some point, so. But it's gonna be a total disruption in my life.
Is your property adjacent
Yes,
to this? It
yes,
is.
101, right? It's a big hole. My house is a big hole. So I gotta, I can't see when I come up my driveway as it is. So it's gonna be, whether it's gonna be a year-long nuisance or a horrible nightmare, I don't know.
Okay.
But
Mr. Lucas?
No.
Okay, you have party status.
thank you.
My name is Jeffrey Bloom, Bloom, and I am representing myself and also my mother. My
What is your
parents,
mother's name?
Patricia Bloom. Our addresses are 513 Weddell and 521 Weddell Road in Rostraver. My parents moved to the township in 1973 and purchased a 75-acre parcel from one of the last remaining founders of this township, William Weddell.
Yeah, let's just get to the point.
Well, okay, we'll get to the point. The point being that when we moved here, and even up until recent times.
No, the question is how close you live to the well pad and how it affects you.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to break this down into a two-part answer for you. Currently, the back of my parents' property is exactly 1/2 mile away from the Hera well pad proposed site. Our property is adjacent to Bailey's Farm, which is now owned by Olympus, and we border a 1/2 mile stretch bordering that property. I'm concerned about what's going to happen with that property, with the Hera well pad, even with the close proximity with that. There's just I did happen to read the application from Olympus. It was sent to Rostraver, and there's a lot of unanswered questions that are on here. Everything was left open-ended. I'm worried about, it says right here, and I'll just read right from what the application was.
Now, can you just explain what your concern is rather than
Well,
reading from?
this is just one paragraph, if you'll please
It's
permit.
that's too much.
Olympus
state
Olympus
what
plans to
your concern
drill
is.
up to 6 unconventional wells at this site. That's Hera. With the potential for an additional 7. So that's 13 wellheads that could potentially be at the Hera well site. Basically, when a well pad is drilled.
Is that a concern of yours that they're going to be?
Well, absolutely.
potentially
We're here to
13?
talk about one well being drilled, but this is open-ended with the potential for 13 wells.
Well, that's all we're
into-
asking is what your concern is, and
Okay.
you've stated that. Do you
So
have any
Bailey's
objection?
Farm-
Excuse me, Mr. Bloom. Do you have any objection?
Wait, just to clarify, your mother property is how far away from the Hera?
Exactly 1/2 mile.
And how far away is your property?
My property sits it's closer to 3/4 of a mile.
No.
Okay, you have party status, Mr. Bloom.
My name is Harv Anderson. I've been a lifelong resident of Rostraver Township for 70 years. And I live 1/4 mile from the Hera well site on Route 51 South at the top of Webster Hollow Road. I have been in discussion with Rostraver Township for the past 2 months about a construction project that they have on Route 51 South that is adding to the public safety of the entire area. They're building a Dollar General. And the traffic management there is horrendous. In my driveway and in my yard, I end up with 5 to 7 wrecks a month. This will add just more traffic to it. Like the addition of however many trucks and big trucks, little trucks are going to be going down there and turning left and going down 51 South, going into the modified entrance to poor Mr. Rourke's house. I believe that if the township has anything to do with this, and they do it like they have done it at the Dollar General, which is between the Hera well site and my house, we could have very significant public safety issues just from a traffic standpoint. Not to mention all of the environmental impact, et cetera, that will obviously be bestowed on all of us. I worked in the oil and gas industry for about 5 years, and I know what can happen and what
So
oftentimes does.
primarily, you're indicating the concern about increased traffic and safety issues on Route 51?
Yes, and in addition to the obvious environmental
Right.
impact that will beset us all. And
Okay,
if the township does not have a better grip on this project than they did on the Dollar General project, this public safety will be even worse than I could imagine.
okay. Mr. Lucas?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Anderson, you have party status.
Hi, my name is Tom Mutchler. I live at
Last
13 Mutchler. It's Mutschler. I live at 1368 Rostraver Road, 201, probably around 2 miles from the construction site. My concern is anybody checked with the Washington County Airport Authority? The reason I ask is I'm a pilot. That structure is directly in line with the downwind for the most highly used runway on that airport. So you're going to be flying 1,000 feet directly over this construction. So my question is, are there any emissions that I should be concerned about or anything along those lines?
You said Washington. Did you mean Rostraver Township
Not
Airport?
Westmoreland County Airport Authority. I'm
Westmoreland
sorry.
County Airport.
My apologies, yeah, the WCAA. And my concern is you're going to be 1,000 feet directly over this flying to land. And majority of the time you use runway 26 and that's the downwind to it. Normally you line up with the ice rink. So you're going to be right in that area. And it's just a concern, a thought of mine. Is there any sort of emissions from the plant that I should be concerned about?
Emissions, did you say?
Yeah, emissions coming from the ground up.
Yeah. Mr. Lucas?
In light of his distance, well, let me say that Olympus will address the FAA certification that they received. But in light of this gentleman's distance away, he's just expressing a general concern as opposed to anything directly impacting his property. So we would object to his standing. That doesn't mean he can't comment on it later, but in terms of having party status, he's clearly too far away.
Well, I mean, he seems to be expressing that his perspective as a pilot as opposed to his residence. And that's my
I own
impression.
hangar D9, which is at the end.
I'm sorry, so you have to speak.
But
up.
your
I can't-
objection is noted and
I own property at the airport. I'm very close in that situation. I'm going to border this, probably be less than within a mile, half mile away, if you want to look at it from that regard.
You guys got any question with him having status?
you're afforded party status, Mr. Mutchler.
Dan Scapoletto, SCAPELLATO, 310 Salem Church Road. Within a quarter mile, I have spring water. It's been there my whole ownership. My only concern is that and the noise.
Did you say, is that and the noise?
That and
the
the noise,
water
yes.
and the noise?
Yes, I really don't want to lose my water. Probably I'm within a quarter mile of the pad. Adjacent property.
Any objection, Mr. Lucas?
No.
No, you have party status, Mr. Scapoletto.